Hey folks, welcome to the Blue Line CNC live stream. We'll be getting started in just a few minutes. This is the part of the broadcast where we allow YouTube to get their engines fired up and put out broadcast notification to channel viewers such as yourselves that will be going live. We have just under 3 minutes and 30 seconds to go, so go grab yourself something to drink and relax. The show is about to start. Hey there, everybody. Welcome to Blue Line CNC's live stream, Blue Line Wood Flags live stream, also known as. You'll have to excuse me. I'm just getting over a little bit of a chest cold. So if I have to mute my mic and cough and hack, I apologize in advance. So hopefully that won't happen. And hopefully I got all my coughing done earlier. But anyway, tonight is something really special and really a little departure from what we normally do on the channel. Tonight, I'm joined by a special guest, and I'm sure many of you are familiar with him. His name is John Patrick, or JP, as some like to call him. JP owns his own woodworking business called Patrick Wood Company, and he makes police flags, public safety flags, and other related products. I stumbled across his work quite some time ago, and I've kind of silently followed him in the background, so to speak. And when I got this live stream off the ground, I said to myself, I got to get John on the channel and interview him. I'm a firm believer in promoting each other and our crafts. And as I've said before, there's enough business out there where we can work together and not be in competition with one another. In fact, to be quite honest, as I'm sure you'll hear John agree, I often have to put folks on a waiting list, on an extended waiting list at times, just to be able to get to them. And in some cases, I even end up turning work down, and I just don't like to do that. But it has happened in the past just because there's so much of a demand for it. So without further delay, let me bring in JP and let's say hi to him. How you doing, JP?
Good. How are you, Russ? Thanks for having me on.
Good, good. Welcome to the show. We've got a few viewers here. Let me jump over to the comments and see who we've got tuning in so far, and then we'll go into some of the meat and potatoes of tonight. We've got John Thompson in the house. Blaine, welcome to the show again. Dan Goris is here. Kyle Larson, welcome to the show. Kyle, you like my music? Thank you very much. And then we've got Christy. So excited to hear about JP's projects. Yeah, we're going to be featuring some of his stuff here shortly, and I'm going to show you some of his work. He just does amazing work, and I'm just really excited to have him here and show you some of the stuff that he's done. Oh, Janet, your brother-in-law is JP. Oh, that's cool. So I'll bet you're real happy to see him here. So. All right. So, well, let's start out with and please keep the questions coming, guys. If throughout this broadcast you have questions or this sparks questions, throw them in the comments, and we'll get to them. I promise you. But we'll roll through this. I don't know how long the broadcast is going to be. Typically, I like to go an hour. If it turns out to be longer, great. I don't want to bore you to death, and I'm sure John doesn't want to either. But if it turns out to be shorter and it looks like we've wrapped things up and there's nothing else flowing in the comment section, I don't want to have a lot of dead air space, so we'll probably just call it a night at that. So anyway, JP, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into woodworking.
As you know, or as you said, my name is John Patrick. I own Patrick Wood Co. I've been in business, I guess, roughly just over 3 years. I kind of just stumbled upon woodworking just basically based off of YouTube. Really, I think a lot of people do that I know. Just kind of get into it, and I saw some videos on making flags, so I thought that kind of looked cool. So I gave it a shot of making a flag without a CNC. So I made one and thought it was kind of neat. So I made another one, and this was back when you would Dremel the stars out by hand, and that was kind of tedious. That lasted about 2 months, and I said, well, I got to get a CNC, so I need to have at least something that can carve the stars for me to make it a little bit easier. And then it kind of progressed from there rather quickly. That was in very late 2019, early 2020. And I didn't really have much woodworking background before that at all, other than like a 3-month class I took in high school, like freshman year of high school. And that was about it. I was always like a vehicle mechanic in the military, took auto mechanics in high school. So I was always kind of mechanical type of guy. In fact, I didn't even really own any woodworking tools, so to speak. Hand saw, drill and driver set, mechanics tools, really. I didn't even own a skill saw, to be honest with you.
I'll bet that tool collection's grown.
Yeah, and and every tool that I've purchased since has all been purchased with the sale of all of the stuff that you've seen, or if anybody that follows me on
Mm-hmm.
Instagram. Anything I've posted and have sold I've purchased all of my tools with the sale of my products. So it's
Mm-hmm.
been kind of cool,
You mentioned
So
doing flags without a CNC. I'm sure you're referring to gluing or nailing the strips together, the 37-inch or however it is, however big you want to make it, like the 13 stripes and then the section of the union and putting it all together.
hmm
I've never done a flag that way, and I've seen it done. In fact, that was my original inspiration for getting started in flag building, was watching those guys create these masterpieces just out of that. And yes, using, like you say, using the Dremel tool to meticulously carve each star. And I was like, I got to do that. I got to put one of those flags together. And then I stumbled like you onto the CNC stuff, and I never ended up putting together a flag that way. But I want to go back to those roots and do one at least one, so I can say in my life I built one flag that way, and do it the old-fashioned way, so to speak. But I still don't know if I would have the patience to do each individual star with a Dremel tool. I think I would have to go with a CNC on that.
Yeah, and I mean, luckily, my son, during that time, he was in high school taking wood shop, so he was kind of into like this woodworking kick. So he actually went out and bought like a little cheap table saw and like a chop saw. So it actually worked out well for me because I didn't have to go and buy these tools to use them to make the flag. So I was able to make this, and actually he had a Dremel too. So I think I went out and bought a little attachment for the Dremel to make it more ergonomically friendly to Dremel the star, so you don't have to hold the big Dremel thing. There's like a pencil attachment
Sure.
for it type of thing. So yeah, I mean it seemed easy enough watching the video because the dimensions were simple. It's just like you just got to cut strips 1.5 inches wide, 13 of them, and butt them all together and glue and nail 4 backers on the back. You don't have to glue anything together, and the flag will stay together that way. You don't have to glue the sticks together, and the flag will hold together. And I'm like, well, that sounds pretty good, and it's worked that way ever since.
Now, I've noticed some guys have like these elaborate type, I wouldn't call it a template, but like backers that they use to line up everything in, and then they have these like other pieces of wood that come in where they use like other bolts to hold them down flush, and then
hmm
they have do you use that sort of setup, or do you just kind of wing it when you put that stuff
No,
together?
I had thought about it, but I never got around to it. Some guys will have like a clamping jig for it to kind of
Yeah,
hold
yeah.
everything flat. Because you always assemble the flag upside down. You assemble it from the back side typically, and
Hmm.
they'll have like I guess like boards that run, I guess, along the flag with bolts that kind of hold everything flat while they put the vertical supports on there to kind of hold it.
Hmm.
And it's almost like a clamping system. But I never got around to building anything like that. I would just always set up kind of like a makeshift fence on my little mobile workbench, just
Hmm.
a kind of a 90-degree fence, just a kind of reference. And
Sure.
I would just kind of tap it with like a little mallet, just kind of make sure everything's kind of just tight, and just tap everything, and then just make my little cuts and glue and nail and and I would put 4 backers, and that was it.
I guess if you were going to do that on a production level and do those types of flags day in and day out, you'd probably want those clamping jigs, and probably a lot
hmm
more than one of them. Um,
Yeah.
so, JP, how do you get your clients? Do you find them, or do they find you?
I've never like really I've never actively like put out a ad or advertised to anybody. It's always been just word of mouth. And I used to have, well, I had a Facebook account, and then I had gotten rid of it for quite a while, but I've always had an Instagram for about 3 years. But My job working for the state that I had in corrections, that kind of helped with that. Um, Everybody was wanting a flag, especially when you learn how to make the badge that we all wear in corrections. Everybody wants their badge with their badge number on it, and everybody's going to retire or promote or something like that. So word of mouth spreads pretty fast, but I'm not the only one who does that type of work. Like, you do it as well. You know, there's
Mhm.
a lot of us that do it, but then again, there's a lot of people that, have that job too. So, uh, like I said, it's just always everybody's just kind of found me, I guess. And early on, especially in 2020, and this was like all when the pandemic hit or something, but it really spread like wildfire, extremely fast, very, very fast.
Yeah, exactly. I hit it lucky on the way I started doing business. I threw some Facebook ads out there. I developed a Facebook page for my business, and then I actually went full bore myself a website as well. And I just the metrics of how the website worked out really helped me out. Because the way like if you search blue line wood flags, I come up number one on Google, and I didn't even not number one on Google, but no, I'm on the first page is what I'm trying to
Hmm.
say, which makes it really nice for me. So when people are searching for that product line, I'm right there with the top 3 or 4 of them, and I didn't plan that. It just worked out that way, and I'll tell you, having it turn out that way. Sometimes they're knocking down my door, and like I said at the beginning of our broadcast tonight, I sometimes have to turn work away or put them on extended waiting lists. And some people will wait around, and some people they go off and they find other sources to get their flags. But like I said,
Hmm.
there's so many there's enough of us out here doing this sort of work where we can complement one another. In fact, whether you know it or not, I've already referred somebody to you. I don't know if they've actually sought you out. Um,
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Well, not that I know of. I think you had mentioned it, but yeah, I don't think anybody has reached out as of yet.
Yeah. So I see that you create some amazing flags and also some other items. John, what concepts and ideas did you start with, and how did that morph into the types of products and what you're doing today?
Um, well, what I'm doing, well, I started. Hopefully, I understood your question. Uh, Okay. Like I said, I started with the assembled type flags made out of the 13 individual stripes and stuff, and then I got the CNC. So that opens up a lot of doors with possibilities, and even even today, having like 3 years of like CNC experience under my belt, I feel like I haven't even like scratched the surface with like what a CNC can do. In fact, I know I haven't scratched the surface. I watch a Mark Lindsay video, and it's like, yeah, I didn't know anything. I didn't know anything, and I've had this thing 3 years, and I can barely turn the computer on still, So, but yeah, it's like I started kind of making the assembled flags, and then I started doing like, okay, I'll and tell me if I'm like just totally going off on a tangent here, because I'm probably just going to ramble on and just kind of do my own thing here.
Well,
Um,
I'll stop you if it sounds like you're going in the direction that I want to take you to next. But go ahead. Go ahead with your train of thought.
um, and then I started making like CNC carved like only flags, kind of like you do, and I kind of stuck with that over time. Like, I kind of just went with that style, and that's kind of what I've been sticking with. Recently, I did go back to making a couple of assembled style flags because they wanted flags that held challenge coins, and that's kind of the only way I know how to make a flag that holds challenge coins, which is not my favorite thing to make because it's very time consuming.
Oh
But
yeah.
that, and I started making like standalone badges Then I would make plaques. I see things that I like sometimes, and I'll be like, oh, that's kind of cool. I'd like to make that thing. I don't really like come up with like my own type of thing. I just kind of see things like, oh, that looks kind of cool. I'd like to make that type of thing. You know, I wouldn't say I'm real like a creative, like coming up with my own type of thing, but I'll see something that I like, maybe modify it some and do my own thing with it. But like for instance, I think I recently I made some motorcycle police plaques or something like that. So that was like um, motorcycle police wing logos, and then I kind of like incorporated some vectors myself, type of thing. So I kind of created that on my own type of thing. So yeah, I mean, I've been kind of wanting to get into other things, but I don't really know exactly what. I've been wanting to kind of try 3D carving, maybe some. So, like I said,
Gotcha.
I'm probably rambling on to like makes probably no sense what I'm saying, but
No,
yeah.
that's fine. No, no, no. That's before we get any further, there was a couple questions that I wanted to jump on. I'll put them out there before I forget. David Basco, our daughter loves the Rudolph you made her for Christmas, so you would probably
Oh,
recognize that one.
all these things just popped up like all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's my buddy Dave. I was in the Air Force with him.
Very cool. Kyle wants to know what's your favorite tool you've purchased since starting.
Okay, I know Kyle too.
Yeah.
Favorite tool I've purchased since starting. Well, I don't know, to be honest with you. I don't
Would it?
have a.
You've got to say it's the Avid CNC that you're about
Well,
getting ready to
yeah,
put together.
I guess it's the Avid CNC, even though it's in 24 boxes right now, you know, but soon to be in an assembled state. You know, this month it will be assembled. So I'd have to say
Right.
that.
Right.
Yeah.
David again says, imagine if you did market your services, and I can second that. You know, you're only getting Instagram exposure. If you had a website with the quality of work you do, you'd be hitting it pretty big. I can tell you that.
Yeah, yeah, and he and I talked about that because he's still got he was like maybe smarter than the full 20 and got a retirement. I only did 4 years, but
Mhm.
he still has connections on like the Air Force with Air Force people, so I can kind of
Yeah.
maybe get like a little insider line there still, maybe. So that'd be kind of a. I think we're gonna have to talk a little further on that. Maybe do some military type stuff, non-trademarked, of course, or non-copyright, whatever it's called.
Right. Well, you're like me. I only did 4 years active duty Air Force too. Then I got
Hmm.
out. Did a couple years in the reserves, but that's all I wanted to do. I had a civilian career I wanted to go pursue. So let's see. Jed wants to know what's your preferred species of wood for outdoor flags.
I honestly don't know because I've never had anybody specifically tell me they're going to use a flag for outdoors, and I've never asked anybody, "Are you going to use this for outdoors?" And I honestly really don't know. I don't have enough woodworking experience to really know what a good wood species is for outdoor. I think maybe white oak might be a good outdoor species. I'm not really 100% sure. Uh,
Yeah, I
to be
think
honest with you.
from my experience, you don't want, well, it depends. You may want a wood that's going to weather, like a cedar or a poplar or something like that would weather real nice. But I think more importantly, it's the finish that you put on it. So it withstands the outside and the elements, like a spar urethane. something like that would be perfect for the outdoors. Where indoors, like my flags, what I make is just solely for the inside, and I put a coat of lacquer on them, and you would never want to expose that lacquer to like rain or moisture. It wouldn't do it too well. So
Oh, I take that back. I have had somebody request like an outdoor finish. I do remember, but it's been very long. And I use like it's called like Minwax Helmsman or something like that, the
mhm.
spar urethane spray. But I remember telling them, I just said I wouldn't recommend putting this like in direct weather. I just said put it like under like a porch or something like that, a covered thing. I said I can't guarantee that this thing's gonna hold up if you go put it on your back fence, in direct sunlight and a tornado hits or something like that.
Sure. John is suggesting cedar for outdoor, and I would agree that that's a good choice for an outdoor wood with the proper
Hmm.
top coat. Yeah, definitely.
Hmm.
Um, John wants to know, and this is going to lead me into my next question for you, JP. He wanted to know what brand of CNC you're using. So that coupled with my question for you is tell us about your CNC, because quite frankly, your level of quality is amazing with the machine you're primarily using. And I know what kind of machine you're using because you told me in the pre-interview that we had. I know there's an Avid CNC backstory as well. So maybe touch on that if you don't mind. I think the viewers would like to hear that one for sure.
Okay, so currently I'm using a Shapeoko 3 XXL, like the 32 by 32 or whatever it is. It's like I got it in the end of 2019. It's the first CNC I've purchased. I still own it. It's never, the only issue I've ever had with it was when I first purchased it, the little brain box on it was dead right out of the box, but they immediately sent me a new one. Never had an issue since.
Mhm.
The only other issue I've had was I had one of the belts. It just like it wore a little bit too much, and this was actually recently. One of the belts wore too much to the point where it skipped like a step, like it missed a step or something, like on the tooth. So it ruined one of my projects that I had to redo, like after a couple hours of carving. So that was kind of disappointing. But I've replaced the belts and V wheels on it twice in 3 years. The original router I just replaced after 3 years. And that's just because the housing broke. I still have the original brushes and the little factory, little cheap router that it came with. It's
Mhm.
been a great machine. So I mean, I would if it wasn't going for like the bigger, more powerful hog of a machine with the Avid, I would. I mean, I'm totally happy with like the Carbide 3D company and the Shapeoko machine. So no complaints there.
Well, I know you said you got an Avid that you're going to be spending some time putting together, and maybe you can tell us a little bit about that. But I can tell you, when you go from that Shapeoko to the Avid CNC, you are in for a big surprise, my friend. That Avid CNC is a beast. I mean, that
Hmm.
thing will move 600 inches per minute, and that's quick. I've had to actually tune my Avid CNC down. I don't run it as fast as it can go because, quite frankly, it scares me
Hmm.
with as fast as it can go. So yeah, tell everybody about this Avid CNC backstory as well, because I hear this is maybe your second one.
Okay, yeah. So in not long after starting the whole getting into woodworking, getting the first CNC, maybe 6 months into it, the business, my business, like was going insanely crazy. Like I had a waiting list that was crazy long, and then I got a large order on top of that for, um, and Russ will show I think he'll show a picture later on of some of that order. But I had a large order on top of that, so long story, even longer. I was getting like really burnt out really quick on top of that. So the company that made the large order, they wanted some bigger items like that were out of the capability of my machine. So I'm like, okay, well, this would be a good time to maybe buy a bigger machine. So I'm like, I'll buy an Avid CNC. It's expandable and all this stuff. So I went ahead 6 months into it. I bought an Avid Pro 4x4. And this whole time I'm like already kind of getting burnt out with doing this woodworking like real quick because it's like just taking up all my time. I'm working full time in the Department of Corrections. Unhappy with that job. My dad's not doing well at the same time. So there's a lot going on. So I end up purchasing the machine. Takes me forever to put it together. I ultimately end up never using the machine. Like it basically sits for like a year. I never even made a waste board for it. I end up even moving to a different town. I moved the machine. It wasn't really hard to move because it wasn't super heavy. All I had to do was take the gantry off of it. And we just lifted it onto the moving truck. But anyway, so it sat in the new shop for a while, and I just kind of cut my losses. And I just said, you know what, I was just so fed up with like working full time. My dad had passed away. I was really burnt out with the woodworking. I was almost at the point of quitting the woodworking thing because I was so kind of over it. I had such a backlog of people wanting to have work done that it wasn't even fun. So I said, I'm just going to cut my losses and sell the Avid. I'll keep the Shapeoko just because I know how to run that machine like comfortably in case I ever do need to do something with the CNC. So I ended up selling it, and that was I don't know, a year and a half ago. So then a little while goes by. I'm still burnt out. A little while goes by. I'm burnt out doing the job still. I didn't go in my shop for a long time. I was really kind of down in the dumps with doing the woodworking thing. It kind of really kind of got to me. But then I kind of pulled myself together and got back out there. And then I guess last year, kind of maybe the middle of last year, I kind of started getting back in the groove of things, and I started taking a bunch of orders and just kind of getting back into the rhythm of things. I cleaned up my shop really well. And then I started I started knocking out just a bunch of orders. And then I started thinking about, damn, I should have never sold that Avid CNC. So I'm like, I'm at the point now where it's like, here I am 3 years into CNC experience. Like, I would feel comfortable now. I'm like, if I tell my wife now, she's going to kill me. If I tell her I want to get another one of the same, basically the same exact CNC that I had, she's gonna kill me,
Yeah.
So I just kind of keep it to myself for a while, and I just kind of keep plugging away, doing my thing with my business, and just proving myself that I'm, back in the game, type of thing. And then one day I just kind of was like, I think I'm gonna get another machine. And I was originally just going to get like a Onefinity 4x4. They're much cheaper. They're nice machines. Not nearly the machine like Avid machine is. Far cheaper, but much bigger carving area.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I think I'm gonna get like a bigger machine. I think I'm ready for that type of thing. But then I was like,
How'd she react to that?
She was fine. She was
Yeah.
fine. But then ultimately I was like, you know what? I think I'm just gonna go with the Avid. And she's just like, well, she didn't really flinch. I was actually surprised. I didn't wake up in a hospital or anything. From a coma or anything. So that was
Yeah.
good. Um, so she was just like, okay, well, just how much work do you need to produce to pay for that machine? And figured it up, and she's like, okay, well, there you go. And so I ordered the machine end of December, and I had it 35 days later. Actually, like a month ahead of schedule because they had about a 2-month lead time, and I got it about a month after I ordered it. So I've
Yeah.
I've had
That's
it. I've had it for a month, and I wanted to actually. I purposely waited to assemble it because I wanted to like kind of clear my plate because I didn't want to run into like the same situation as a couple of years ago and be like trying to do multitask working on I want to like focus like 100% on the machine, get it going, get it dialed in. I've already got
yeah.
like a dust like before I didn't even have dust collection for it. I didn't even have a dust shoe. I wasn't ready at all before. I didn't even have a computer to really run it. I was trying to run it off of my MacBook and stuff, like with parallels and all that stuff. So yeah,
Doesn't
it was a
work too easy.
yeah.
Uh,
So
Um, hey, before we take a look, and I've got some pictures of some of your work that I want to put out there for people to see. Let's just jump on a couple questions real quick. Christy just said she looked you up on Instagram. Great work. I like the special touches you put into your work and how you personalize items as well. Yes, definitely. His work is fantastic. What wood do you like working with most for your flags? I think we talked a little bit about this earlier. What wood do you prefer, John?
well, I started out the longest time I worked all exclusively with pine. It's like I think a lot of people work with pine because it's inexpensive and stuff. But I got to where I used ash for a little bit. I used red oak for a little bit, and then I used European beech for quite a while. It was reasonably priced, but they raised the price on it recently, so I switched back
Mhm.
to ash, and I've been using ash for quite a while now, and that's pretty much all I use now is ash.
Wow.
So
See, I
all of my flags are ash, and even those assembled style flags, whereas before they would have been made out of pine, I made them out of ash, and let me tell
mhm.
you, they are very heavy when they're made out of ash.
Oh, I'll bet. Ash is a pretty thick
Yeah.
wood, pretty stout.
Hmm.
Um, Most of my stuff, in fact, 90% of stuff that I've done in the past has been red oak. Uh,
Hmm.
and I found a happy medium with it. I had a love-hate relationship with pine. Pine was doing a lot of weird stuff on me, and it wasn't a very stable wood for what I wanted to do. Uh,
Yeah.
and and I found oak has worked out better for me. So, well, let's go ahead and see if we can't share my screen here and pull up some of your work. Let me
Yeah,
close
and
that
I
out.
actually before these last couple rounds of ash, I actually bought some red oak because I think it's actually a little bit cheaper than ash. And
Hmm.
I didn't really care for it as much because it seemed like it created more fuzzies, when it carved, and I don't know if it was my bit being a little bit dull or something. I'm not sure, but it bleeds easily too when you stain it, like much easier than ash.
Uh, oh yeah, yeah. So I'm going to go through these, and maybe you can kind of briefly, in a paragraph or so, just kind of describe what we're looking at here, JP, just to give the viewers an idea of what you've done with some of this stuff.
Is there anybody in the room that I don't know?
Probably all your friends.
Yeah.
Uh,
I don't.
Well, I
Is John
think,
Thompson still in there? And
yeah, I see John.
okay,
I don't know if he's still in the
because
room.
these guys have all seen my work, you know.
Yeah,
But anyway,
Christy.
I'll explain it to him anyway. Who cares?
Yeah,
Okay, so what we're
pretend
looking,
nobody's in here that you know.
yeah, what we're looking at here is we're looking at these are like the little, I guess you call them valet trays. Department of Corrections, obviously, and Secret Service. Um, let's see. I carved the state seal on the corrections
The center
trays
part
is
here.
actually laser engraved. Just the state seal part.
Just this center part here where my
Yes,
mouse
and
is.
yeah, and actually, I had just recently purchased a little hobby entry level laser not long before I started making these. And if it wasn't for the laser, I would have been kind of hosed on the state seal because that state seal is like I think less than 2 inches in diameter. It's
Yeah.
tiny. Yeah, it's like even a 30-degree V bit. I wasn't able to. I was trying to practice on some scrap walnut, and I could
Hmm.
not get the detail. Luckily, that laser saved the day, and I was able to watch just enough YouTube to figure out how to center the laser to where I needed it to laser on each one of those trays. I ended up making, I think, about 18 of those corrections trays
Hmm.
overall in this. I made like a run of like 14, and then I think I made like four more in like a second little batch.
Are they for like food, like cheese trays, that sort of thing?
Oh yeah, you could do it. I mean, I finished them with like cutting board oil, but you know, you can put keys or M&Ms or
Okay.
whatever you want, you know,
Yeah.
or your gun.
Yeah. How big are they?
They're only like 8.5-inch diameter.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
Uh,
I that's just a thing I picked, a size I picked because I had some boards and I was able to squeeze four of them on my 30-inch X axis based on
gotcha.
the width of the board. So I was able to squeeze four of them on there.
So it looks like here we've got a canine that passed away, and this was done in honor of that.
Yeah, that was my buddy Ron. He's a canine officer. That was just his like retired canine. They had to put him down just because he was old and he just kind of they had to just put him to sleep because he was, you know,
Hmm.
he was just
Gone,
old and fell
gone but
apart.
not forgotten, though.
In fact, I was. They had the same department, Stockton Police. They just had a canine that was killed in the line of duty, and I've actually thought about reaching out to the department and seeing if they would like me to make one of these, like the same thing for the
Hmm.
officer that had the canine. So I think I'm thinking about doing that, even though I'm closed down. I could knock one of those out. I think that's about 12 inches in height.
12 inches tall. Yeah, there's some good
Hmm.
detail in there in that center area. I really like that. Okay, what's next here? We've got West Jordan Police Department. Is that Utah?
Yeah, that's in Utah. And
Okay.
Christy and Kyle, I'm sure they know where that is. They live, I think, near there.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
just recently did that one, and that's a laser engraved badge because there's no way. I mean, maybe you would have gave it a shot, but there's no way I was going to try engraving that badge.
What's
There's way too much detail for my comfort level
what's
to
your
even try it.
what's the overall dimension of your flag? I can tell you if it was something I would have attacked.
Actually, I think that's actually the same size that you do. I think that's a 15 by 28 and a half. Because I usually will do a 16 by 30, and I think I actually got that size idea and from you, and I just kind of offered.
Uh-huh.
I think I offered that size or something for whatever reason. Maybe there was. I don't even remember exactly. That badge is, I think, 7 inches tall.
Yeah, I might. That's pretty detailed for that height. As you know, when you get down to The smaller you make it, the
Hmm.
harder it is to show that detail. Where the bigger the badge is, the easier it is. So yeah, that's definitely some detail in there. Looks
I
good
mean,
though.
the Utah state seal on that thing. I mean, there. I don't think you could capture that. Even John Thompson saying a 15-degree. I mean, I don't own a 15-degree V bit. I honestly don't think you could carve that myself. It is so
Yeah,
tiny. I mean, you
yeah.
can't even with the laser, and the laser can capture some super fine detail. There's like little stars in that seal.
And
I mean, I just felt more comfortable doing the laser, and I offered it to the lady, and she's like, "Oh yeah, that looks awesome." She actually was just like ecstatic with how it looked, and I actually think it turned out nice with kind of like the contrast and stuff,
uh-huh.
So
Yeah, and I can tell you from experience, those 15-degree V-bits, don't buy just one. Buy about 5 of them when you buy them because they will break on you, and oh,
yeah.
they are sharp. All you have to do is just
Mhm.
barely touch one, and you're going to bleed. At least I have in the
Yeah,
past.
so that is actually on that badge is actually lasered on maple veneer MDF. I just happen to have like some A1 grade maple veneer MDF.
Hmm.
I had that for that real large order of 86 badges from like 2 years ago. I made the stands for the badges out of that plywood, and it's really nice actually. So I was like, I'm gonna engrave. I know maple will engrave nice on
Hmm.
with a laser. So I was like, I'm gonna try it. So I lasered that, and then I inset that about an eighth of an inch. So it sets in the flag about an eighth of an inch.
You just glue it in, basically.
Yeah, I just glued it in. So I yeah
Cut.
I made a pocket the shape of the badge about an eighth of an inch deep.
I see. Okay. There's San Mateo. There's like a motor unit. The motors. Yep. Looks
Yeah,
real
and I've
nice.
that actually I made one for that Stockton police, which is nearby here. I made one of those, uh, a year or so ago, and not much action off of it as far as posting it. And then I made another one. I think it was later last year, and then I got another order for a different department. So I just changed the city and put a name where it says San Mateo.
Hmm.
Luckily, watching some of Mark Lindsay's videos on how to text on a curve and stuff,
Hmm.
so I was able to do that. And then same thing with this. Um, I think the other one I changed the sheriff's said Modesto Motors, and it had a name. And then this time I added San Mateo and then Sheriff's Motors. This guy ordered 4, so I was
Hmm.
pretty happy to get that order.
Yeah, it's nice when you get a repeat order or something similar, and all you got to do is swap out a couple words because you already have the file. It
Hmm.
makes your workflow a lot easier. So very nice. I like that. And then it looks like we've got some retirees here from the parole.
Yeah, and those were just carved, like those were non-finished. I'm definitely not a photographer, uh, as you can see, but yeah, those were like just carved off the machine. I just stacked them on top of each other, and
Uh huh.
in fact, I just put an ash board on top of it just to kind of like block out whatever looked crappy on top of it there. But yeah,
What
those went to Chino, I think, or San Bernardino or something, I think.
did they get like a blue or a gray stripe along the middle, or did they stay non-colorized?
Um, Honestly, I think they got colored lines. I think they
Hmm.
did.
Yeah.
Um,
I've done a few corrections flags as well, and I've found that a lot of corrections officers want the blue for law enforcement, and some
mhm,
definitely want to stay gray because gray symbolizes their career field. They
right.
want the gray.
Yeah,
Um,
I would say I would say I actually do more blue than gray. Yeah, I would say I do more blue for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm pretty sure I did lines for those. But yeah, those were all three, I think, in the same office, and I think the supervisor bought them for all three of them, maybe.
Right. Well, right there, you got almost 80 years of combined service between those three guys. So that's very honorable. And to play a role in making something that is going to be an heirloom for them and their family for years to come is kind of cool.
Yeah, and then those were actually the small flags that I offer, like an 11 by 21. It's not truly a proportionally accurate flag. It's
Uh-huh.
11 and a quarter by 21, and the reason it's that is because that's a 1 by 12 pine board. Well, that's ash, but a 1 by 12 in pine is 11 and a quarter by, is 11
Sure.
and a quarter wide. So when I first learned how to make a CNC flag from Chris Powell, Full Steam Designs, that's how I learned how to make my first CNC flag, which is basically this design, and then you can put whatever you want in the middle of it. It was using a 1 by 12, so it's like 11 and a quarter by 21. So I
Yeah.
just have always just kept it that size, or whatever. I mean, I could change it to whatever I want, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just blow it up and shrink it down, do whatever you need to do.
Mm-hmm.
Special service unit, San
Mm-hmm.
Diego. Is that part of their police department, I'm assuming?
No, that's actually part of the state parole. Part of the California State Parole.
Okay.
That's a division or like a special unit of paroles.
Okay. Very, very cool. Looks like, is that an eagle head on or something that we're looking
Yeah,
at
and I just
there?
like kind of like engraved the face with a 30-degree bit. It might not look that great in the picture, but like if you look at it up close, it looks pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Let's see here. I don't know. Oh, I can zoom in a little bit here. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I see what you did there. You left that, the eagle's head, the same level as this, and then used a 30-degree V-bit to carve the actual detail
Hmm.
inside the face. Yeah.
Yeah, and I actually had to like go in and kind of like, well, luckily I'm like Instagram friends with a guy that had this vector, and actually I had a vector made and it wasn't that great.
Mm-hmm.
So I reached out to a guy I knew that had made one of these before because I think he worked for corrections also, but he ended up like moving to Florida or something. So I reached out to him. I was like, "Hey man, do you have this vector still?" He's like, "Yeah."
Wow.
He's all, "You might have to clean it up some." So I had to like kind of do some. Luckily, my limited cleaning up ability, I was able to like modify some stuff a little bit. But yeah, I had to do just a little bit of cleanup on that.
Christy wants to know, how long does it usually take to create one of these flags, start to finish?
Mm, I never really have timed it. I mean, I start with like a template, the flag. Um, and obviously, I have this flag now in my
Mm-hmm.
database or, my saved folder. So I'll always have this flag. And this flag, well, this one actually didn't have a name on it. So, now that it's created, obviously, it's just a matter of just making the flag and then going out and kind of carving it. But to create,
I don't know about
I,
you,
I
but
never really have timed it so much because it kind of varies from flag to flag because um,
I find that most of
a
my
lot of it's kind of
time,
repeat.
yeah, I find that most of my time when I make flags, and I don't know if you find this the case as well, John, but it's waiting in between the stages,
Hmm.
waiting for something to dry, waiting for a finish to dry before you can do a second finish. Uh, because I do two coats of black. If there's a colored stripe in there, I do two coats in that. And I have to let it cure before I put the second coat on, and then I sand it in between. So there is some some development time in between. And I don't know. It is hard. I agree with you. It is hard to give an answer that
Yeah,
to
like
say.
so Christy, like I was saying, like for this picture, like I had to kind of go in and modify that image like in the software. So I couldn't honestly tell you how long it took me. I had to kind of mess with it for a while. I mean, I you know, I don't it's hard to say, to be honest with you. You know, like my correctional officer flags, those things are just like set in stone. All I need to do for those is just go in, change the badge number, change the name, and maybe where what prison they worked, or the years of service, or anything like that. Um, or are you or are you referring to like how long does it take to like carve the flag with the machine type thing? Is that kind of what you're asking, or
Yeah,
both?
maybe you
Because
can clarify your question there, Christy. Let him know exactly.
I mean, I can try to answer that too. I mean, I've never. I try to. I try not to stare at the machine that much, even though it's still mesmerizing even to this day watching the machine go back and forth.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
It just kind of depends, like I notice with you, Russ, like you typically use 2 bits for like your stripes and stuff. And for me, I typically I typically just use 1 bit for my stripes, just because I don't mind. I'll use like an 1/8 inch bit, like even for these little bigger flags, like I don't mind the extra machine time, just because like I don't feel like changing the bit, even though I use like those little stop collars, so I don't have to reset
Uh-huh.
the Z height and stuff. But I find it, I just find it, yeah, it takes longer to carve the entire thing with an 1/8 inch bit, and then obviously depending on your step over and your
Sure.
feed rate. And with the Shapeoko, I'm not, running, 300 inches a minute or anything like that. I'm running, maybe 100 inches a minute with like a 30%, 35% step over. So for stripes like this may take, 25 minutes at least, with an 1/8 inch bit, at least,
Yeah,
at least 25 minutes.
I think on my flags, a 28.5 inch wide by 15 inches tall. When I'm carving out those white stripes, I'm using like on the 1/4 inch bit. Uh, I'm running about, I want to say 215 inches per minute with a
Mm-hmm.
40% step over. That tool path will take me about 7 minutes to run a 1/4 inch bit. And then when I trim it out with the 1/8 inch bit to get the fine details in the corners, that'll take me about 3 minutes. So probably about
Yeah.
10 minutes total.
Yeah. See, that's nice, because I mean, you have that like rigidity, and it's able to just plow through that stuff, and it can move so fast and not have that flex, and probably leave a bunch of machine marks and stuff. If I were to run my thing at full tilt, it would probably leave a bunch of machine marks in the stripes and stuff.
No, you definitely have to stay within the confines of your machine. You don't
Hmm.
want to, if within the specs of your machine, so you can produce the quality. You don't want to exceed what your machine's capable of. I can second you on that.
Yeah.
Here's another one of those trays. How do you say that? Tuolumne
Tuolumne County.
Tuolumne
Tuolumne
County.
County.
I could
Yeah,
never
that's
get that
just kind of
pronunciation
over
right.
here in the foothills, over here, Sonora, going out toward Yosemite and all that stuff.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Again, very nice detail. I like that. Looks like you're using what is that? A bullnose bit around the edge, or
Yeah,
a
I'm using a bowl bit.
bull
Uh,
bit?
yeah, I'm using a bowl bit, for. I'm using a bowl bit for the entire clearing of that. I don't use like a 1/4 inch, even though I could. I just use the bowl bit for the entire thing. I think it's like a three passes. I'll do
Uh
like
huh.
a 50% step over for like for like I'm sorry, for the first 2 passes. Yeah, and then I'll do like a real shallow, super fine step over for like a finish pass.
Okay.
Uh, so it doesn't really have a lot of machine marks. Um,
That looks really smooth.
yeah, and there's definitely a little bit of there's some sanding that goes into it, some hand sanding, but yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and then I use these little they look like almost like Brillo pad little things like for the Dremel. It can kind of
Mm-hmm.
clean up like any kind of fuzzies within the letters or any of those little crevices type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't actually sand, but it'll kind of get rid of fuzzies and stuff.
Yeah, the fuzzies are what frustrate me sometimes with red oak. You talked about that earlier, and I do get that sometimes when you're cross grain, and it's like it just
Mm-hmm.
pisses me off sometimes. You got to get in there and clean them out real good.
Yeah.
But nature of the beast. Oh, this
Oh
looks like a
yeah.
traditional flag. I
So
see something wrong with that one.
yeah, so that right there was my very first flag, and I put the stars on upside down with the
Uh,
template.
yeah.
That was my very first flag. I ended up destroying it and throwing it in the trash. I guess I should have just kept it, but I did end up destroying it and tossing it. But yeah, that was my very first attempt at a flag. But it looked good.
Yeah,
Not bad
definitely.
for a first try.
Other than the stars, it looks great. No, I like it. I do like it a lot. Yeah, and that's an easy mistake to make, John, is to have that template turned the wrong way. And I've heard of
Hmm.
other people that have done that very same thing, that have made that same error. So don't feel bad.
But in all the times after that I dremeled the stars, I never made that mistake again. It only took the one time, the very first time, and that's all it took.
Oh, I'll bet. I'll bet. Oh, hey, this is amazing to me to look at your little production line going there.
Yeah, that was at my old house. That was like the second. Like we had a 3-car garage, and it was like double deep on one side, like a tandem 3-car tandem they call it.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, that's my Shapeoko, like kind of on the left, and there's like 4 or 5 there's like a stack
Oh,
of
yeah.
badges on there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so that was my big order early on.
Yeah, quite a few of them. I can see that. You got, yeah, tons of them there. And it looks like you got something else going here on the back of the
Oh
bench there
yeah,
as
and those were
well.
the things I was telling you about. Those were the stands that I made out of that maple veneer MDF, which I didn't even know was a thing, because I didn't have any woodworking experience. But I learned a little bit about. Actually, I learned about that material from. I think my wife had purchased some type of like nice looking clipboard off of Etsy or something. And when they shipped it to her, like it was like this cool material. So I like messaged the people. I was like, "What's this material?" They're like, "Oh yeah, that's
Right.
maple MDF." I'm like, "Oh, that's nice." So I hit up Macbeth Hardwood, which is like the local hardwood dealer about 10 minutes from me, which is very fortunate, by the way, because they have a huge selection. uh, I was like, "Do you guys have maple MDF?" They're like, "Heck yeah, we got anything you want here."
Wow. Yeah, I think I would have to go down to the Sacramento area if I wanted to. They just don't. I mean, we have a hardwood supplier here, and I could probably order it here. But I don't know if they stock something like that. But that's pretty cool. I like that.
Hmm.
Um, just to have that availability of those different woods to be able to work with them. What do
I
we
didn't
got
even
here?
realize I sent you that picture.
Yeah, yeah. Army and Marine Corps.
Yeah, so that's actually, well, I think it's glued up or something, but that's just carved out of like it's just carved down.
Hmm.
Those aren't like inset or anything. It's just carved down, and then this is carved on top, I guess you'd call it.
So this is carved down, is what you're saying, and this is
Yeah,
the
it's
this is the
kind of like
main
this
surface.
is all like pocketed out, and then this is just carved on the surface.
So
Kind of
you've
came,
got
yeah.
one surface here, and then the stars are taking it even deeper.
Yeah, and
Gotcha.
that was actually my own design, I guess you'd call it, other than not not coming up with the EGA or anything like that.
Right. Mark Lindsay just chimed in. He said, "Sorry, he's late. Did I miss everything?" Well,
No,
Mark,
in honor of you, we'll go another hour, Mark. No.
yeah, really. We're about, oh heck, what are we? I don't even see the time on it right now. I think we're an hour in so far. So that's all right. All we've done is talk and shown some pictures, and I think we're almost done with the pictures. We're just reviewing some of JP's work here. And yes, Kyle, you can definitely tell he is meticulous in his work. That is for sure. I am just amazed at the quality that JP pushes out on his stuff. And keep in mind, this is all using a Shapeoko CNC. This isn't a very high dollar machine. This is classified as like a hobby level CNC. Not, I wouldn't say entry level, but definitely hobby level. And this goes to show that the craft is in the talent of the person using the machine, not the machine. There's people out there with machines, you know, $15,000, $20,000 that I've seen that cannot produce this level of quality. It takes practice. It takes a skilled person to be able to do this stuff. And JP, you definitely have the skills.
No, thanks. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's all like I went to YouTube University, man. And you see my fancy clamping system there.
Oh yeah. Oh, I see it right there.
I got like a 30-pound weight, like holding the flag down in the back. That's my 30-pound clamp.
Okay, this right here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see that. I see that. And I see how you cut them out. You pocket them out for the patches and the badges. So.
Yeah, don't even ask how I figured the math out to center all of that. I don't even know if I could repeat that, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Mark, yep. Learn your machine, your machine, and you'll be amazed at what you can create. That is very true. So yeah, I like this. This really looks cool.
Yeah.
And there's kind of gives you the concept of what you're doing there with the patches and the badges and getting ready to put them in the pockets.
Yeah, that was actually, that's probably one of my favorite ones that I made that was out of like an assembled style flag.
Mm-hmm.
I did like 4 individual. That's a lot of like CNC. Like I had to engrave like each of those stripes and center all of that stuff.
Wow.
You know, so I actually amazed myself, I think, on that one. And that was a couple years ago. That was actually for a guy I went to high school with. It was for like his grandpa or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Just the course of his career when he started out in 62 and ended in 91, 4 agencies. Yep.
Yeah, and that's all pine. That's all like Lowe's pine or Home Depot or something.
So that's okay. Yeah, I see it. It is a panel that's put together and glued up. So it's not plywood.
No, I've actually never used plywood for any of my flags. I know there are people that have used plywood, but I've never used plywood. I've just never tried it or anything. I've just always thought you would get like voids or something. You know, I've seen some guys that have used plywood and then it looks good, and I've seen stuff that has looked really not good that have used plywood too. So I'm like, well, I think I'll just stick with regular wood, you know.
Like you, I'm very hesitant about using plywood. It's not a road that I even want to go down when it comes to creating the stuff that I do either. I'm with you on that one. So, oh yeah, there it is finished. Nice. I like that. Like it a lot. Stockton Police Department. Okay, same type of thing. Pocketed out and then an insert put in.
Yeah, and that one was actually kind of cool. That's like a double insert. Like the circle is inset, and then the badge is inset into that. That's kind of cool.
Wow.
It's not like I reinvented the wheel probably, but I thought it was kind of cool.
No, and you know what, JP, that's what I love about your stuff. If it's so unique, is when I saw you for the first time on Instagram and I saw the stuff you're putting out there, I'm like, there's nobody out there that does this stuff. I mean, I have my way of doing things, and it's like, wow, this is kind of unique. I want him to talk about this
Well, to
stuff.
be honest with you, there are guys that do this style of stuff. It's not. I would say that it's not my idea. I'm not claiming that I invented this pocketing these flags up, but it's definitely a cool technique. I think it is.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I'll give credit to the guys. 10-7 Woodworks and this guy here, Chala Woodworks. He's a
Uh-huh.
police officer down in LA.
Okay.
He pockets the flag. He actually still makes flags kind of like this, but like I said, I've kind of gotten away from that style of flag, but I just I felt like changing it up and doing like a double inset on that, but
Well,
it's
definitely looks pretty cool. And to watch flag for California Department of Corrections. There's the gray color that we were talking about earlier. Very nice.
Yeah, that was one of my partners at work that passed away from COVID. Actually, COVID got him
Yeah.
early on during that.
We
He
we
was.
lo-
I worked with him at that CHCF prison. That's in a town here called Stockton.
Mhm. We lost a lot of guys to COVID in the early part of that pandemic, all across the country in law enforcement. So it's kind of sad. California Department of Corrections retired.
Yeah, that was for my buddy's wife when she retired in 2020. I think it was 2020. Oh no, it might have been 2021.
Mm-hmm.
But that's I think that's 4-quarter walnut. Pretty sure it's 4-quarter walnut.
Yeah, I love the way walnut carves. I really love the way maple carves too.
Yeah, I've actually never I've never carved maple, but I like the way badges look in walnut. It's my favorite, especially with the black contrast, even though it's a lot of extra steps.
Oh yeah, and lasering on maple is beautiful. I think you mentioned it earlier. It's really pretty. It just contrasts so well. That light hard maple and then the darker lasering really looks good. This is FBI Stockton Safe Streets Task Force. Very nice.
Yeah, and that was my buddy that I was telling you about before we started when you and I were just chatting. The guy that buys like so much stuff off of me, that's a state parole agent. He works with like the FBI task force. All those agencies like get together and work together. And he's just buying stuff for all these guys, left and right. So
yeah,
like I said, he's been a good customer.
Yeah. Mark's telling you gorgeous work.
Oh, thanks, Mark. I appreciate it. And thanks for all the Vectric lessons, man. I appreciate it.
Let's see. What else do we have left here? Oh, nice cutting. Is that a cutting board or another like cheese board?
Yeah, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. It's just hanging on the wall. In fact, I made it. I made one for my in-laws. I made one for my sister-in-law. I forget who else I made one for.
Yeah, really nice. Very, very nice. CNCs are just so versatile. You can make so many gifts and just do some really cool stuff with it. Looks like that is the last one in the series that you sent me. So I will take it back to just you and I. Anybody have any questions for JP while he's still here? Looks like there's a few of you guys still in the chat. This is your opportunity to make some comments and throw some questions at him. Christy's got something, unless that means CO. Is that code? Do you know what that means, John?
I don't know. Colorado.
Oh, maybe.
I don't know.
Let's see. No. Well, I guess since that is it and nobody has any questions, we are about, looks like an hour and 10 minutes into this broadcast. We can go ahead and call it good. John, if you want to stay around for a couple minutes after, you don't have to leave. We can talk about how everything went. And then we'll just wrap it up with the viewers right now. Let's see. We'll check. Nope, no other questions coming in. If you guys aren't always or aren't a subscriber yet to my YouTube channel, please consider subscribing to my channel and liking this video. And don't forget to hit the bell icon down below to be notified when I post new videos. You can also find me on social media on Facebook and Instagram, and as well as my website. And you can see some of the work that I've done at www.bluelinewoodflags.com. So with that, we'll go ahead and call it a night, and you guys have a great evening.